So fine, let us start with the hybrid framework. Okay, I'll first discuss few of the requirements or few of the goals which you should be achieving while building a hybrid framework. Okay, right. For example, just a minute. This is the not data driven. Just ignore this. These are the major goals which you have to uh, actually achieve while building the hybrid framework. Okay, right. The major goals are that it should be Maven project. You should be able to read the data from the Excel files, and you should be able to implement the tests and validations, report generation, logging, screenshots. Okay, so regular things running with Ant and Maven, and you should be implementing grid. That, yeah, this is very important. You should build the framework from the very beginning in such a way that later on, if the requirement for running the test cases parallelly on the grid comes up, you should be able to do that. Many times the projects are not built in this way, and when the client asks that fine, go and run this parallelly on Selenium grid, everything goes for a toss. People don't know what to do because they end up making the whole project again. Okay, the framework should be reusable. What do you mean by reusable? You should not repeat the code bases. You should have base test classes. The other classes should extend those classes. So there should be a lot of reusability. You should be able to run the project on different environments. Okay, that is, in a company there is SAT environment, UAT, production, post-production, pre-production. Every environment has got its own set of settings, URLs, username, passwords, credentials. So your script should be dynamic enough with minimum changes. You should be able to run it on different environments. You should be able to integrate it with Jenkins, schedule the test cases, implementing the keywords, which is very simple thing in hybrid framework. Okay, emailing of the reports you should be able to email. And in the end, this is a very important point, that the framework should be easy to change. Suppose the client requirements, they change tomorrow, or the application, it changes. Okay, then it should be very easy to change. It should not be that you are rewiring the complete thing and making the complete project again. Okay, so in a nutshell, these are the requirements to which we will be catering in this particular class. Okay, requirements to build the hybrid framework. Okay, now how do you start building the hybrid framework? Okay, yes, I will be covering all the things, Sam, don't worry. Okay, I'll take time and I'll cover all of them. Okay, right. Now the first thing is that you should actually build a Maven project. Okay, right. Now what do you mean by building a Maven project? Have you guys looked at the Maven video? Have you guys looked at the Maven video? I asked you, I guess, right, last time? Okay, yeah, yeah. So now what Maven video does is it helps you to build a project from the command prompt so that you can maintain the versions of the jar files. Okay, and reading data from Excel. This is also very important. So first let us make our Excel files. Okay, later on I'll build the project in the Eclipse and be using Maven. Fine. Let me first decide the Excel files. For in my PC in F drive temp folder, I will make a folder known as XLS, and I will keep my Excel files inside it. Okay, I'll create a new Microsoft Excel file, call it say test cases. Okay, to start with, how does the framework works? How this framework works? I'll make a sheet over here, test cases. Okay, now in the hybrid framework, okay, you have the complete framework being managed from the Excel file. Okay, so you have got columns, TCID. Okay, you have got description. Be with me, in some time you will come to know. Okay, then you have a column known as keyword, and you can say object and data. Okay, these are, no, the video is getting recorded. Okay, I'm recording it on Camtasia. Alright, so out here you have got, you have got 4 columns: TCID, description, keyword, object, data. Now suppose you have to test a website. Alright, for example, taking case of, just a minute, let's take simple case of Facebook. Okay, right, a simple test is that suppose you have to log in inside Facebook, and right, so you will name the test case as login test over here. Okay, the keyword, now keywords, they define your steps which have to be implemented. Okay, first you have to open the browser, so you will use the keyword open browser. Then you have to navigate to the website, you will use the keyword navigate. Right, then after that, after navigating to Facebook, you have to log in, you have to enter the input user, you have to enter the username password. So you type the username, you type the password, and then you click on the login button. So you do these things. So these are the generic operations which you perform on the browser. Okay, open browser, what kind of browser you have to open, you can mention in the data that I have to open Mozilla browser. Okay, which website you have to navigate, http facebook.com. okay, then you have to type in inside the username text field. So in the object column you can keep the XPath of the username field. Okay, XPath like like this, /, there is an input field whose ID is, you can type in any ID. Okay, I'll take the XPath later on, but the idea over here to help you explain the logic, because in the end my motive is to have a robust framework which can help you easily generate reports with loggings and screenshots and all everything, because that is what is important. Okay, for example, a report like this, an extent report which looks something like this, with all the test cases mentioned over here, their status, and if you click on any test case you get the complete details with the logs that what happened in the test case, with the screenshot as well if it is required. Okay, and when the scripts are running parallelly on multiple machines, still you want to generate these kind of reports. Okay, so I am starting from the very basics. Be with me, whatever we do in the class every day, go and practice that. You have the complete week with you. Okay, this is the weekend batch. Fine, so you have the login test, you have the keywords, you have the objects over here, and you can type in the username, whatever username you want or whatever password you want. I'm least concerned about the data right now. And then click on the input button, whatever is the XPath of the input button you can keep over here. So the object column holds the objects. Okay, the data column holds what is the data being entered. Okay, so this is the login test, right? So I'll mark it like this. Now suppose after login test, right, after every test case I will be automatically closing my browser. Let us discuss the strategy first. Look, at times what people do is that they make automation scripts and they make the scripts dependent on each other. You have got one test case, you have got another test case. They open the browser in this test case, the test case gets over, and then they expect that the starting point of the next test case should be the ending point of the other one on the same browser. Look, there is no harm in doing this. I'm not against it. But rule number 1 in automation is you should have your scenarios, you should have your scripts independent of each other. You should not make them dependent. Okay, sometimes one test case is generating a data which is required in the other test case. Suppose this test case generates the order number. this order number has to be passed over to the second test case. Then you can save this order number in an Excel file and read the second test case can get it from the Excel file. But don't just try to pass it on through the script or something. Okay, the test cases should be independent of each other. The primary reason behind this is that it reduces complexity. Okay, and the secondary and the most important reason for this is when you run on grid, when you run the test cases parallelly on grid, if the test cases are dependent and you have written the code in such a way, then you cannot run them on grid, you cannot run them parallelly. So every test case, it is always a good practice. You open the browser, execute the test case, close the browser in the end. Then you again open the browser, whether the test case passes or it fails, it is mandatory for you to close the browser. Okay, so we will make a script in such a way that after the line number 6 is executed, the browser would be closed by default. Okay, right. Then if we have to run this test with multiple sets of data, right now I have kept the data over here, but what if I want to run the test with multiple sets of data? Right, we will also look into that. I'm just giving you an overview that what we are going to do, how we are going to move forward with this framework. Okay, so that you are very clear that what we will be achieving in the end. Fine. Now, suppose the next test case comes up. The next test case is change password test. Okay, right, you write some description, whatever description of the step you want to write, you can write. In that, the first is open browser. Fine, the first keyword is open browser. The next keyword is navigate. You navigate to the website. You log in. Type, click, 3 keywords, some data and objects. Okay, you log in. Now after logging in, you have to change the password. So you suppose you use the keyword click. The keywords are reusable. You can use them again and again with different input parameters. You click on the XPath of say a password change page and you go there, you type your old password, you type your new password, okay, and you click on the submit button. I'm just taking a scenario. I hope you are able to understand me. These XPaths I will change, this data I will change later on. Okay, and you execute this test case. Fine. Okay, so these are the keywords for change password test. Okay, right. So now the next thing is how will you implement them? And after logging in, you have to validate as well whether the password has changed or not. Okay, you will have to type the login test and you will have to type a keyword validate login. Now this kind of a keyword is an application dependent keyword. I am marking it red. This is only applicable for the Facebook website. Maybe you will check the title of the page or something, whatever you want. Okay, right. The other keywords, these are not application dependent keywords. These keywords, they are, they are generic keywords. You can use them on any website. So there are two types of keywords in which control the flow. Okay, we will write a Java code which will read all these values and execute. How will we write them? We'll talk about it later on. But these keywords, they govern the flow, and keywords, they are of two types. One are application dependent keywords and the other ones are generic keywords. So these are the generic keywords. Okay, these generic keywords will be defining and the application keywords will be defining the flow. Now, a feature like login, okay, it is common for almost all the test cases. So it doesn't look good to write type, click in every particular function or every particular test case, sorry. Okay, right. So right now, how will you make sure that you don't have to repeat this stuff again and again. To make sure about that, you will have to make a application dependent function, a keyword like login. Okay, and you'll remove all these two lines. You make a keyword for login. This keywords, the work of this keyword is to log you inside the application. So out here also you just use the login keyword, remove the other two ones. Okay, so there can be two types of keywords. One is application dependent and one are generic keyword. Generic keywords, application dependent keywords, they are particularly for that application and they reduce our work as well. Okay, now the script will read these keywords, it will read the data from here, it will execute them, and it will actually generate the reports, logs and all, everything for you. Okay, right. Now the next thing, how will you make the script? How will you build the script which will read this particular file? Okay, so you will have the test cases one after another written over here, and after the end of every test case it will close the browser as well. Now before that, I will talk about one more type of keywords. Those are the validation keywords. For example, after navigating to facebook.com, you want to check whether facebook.com has opened up properly or not, or you want to check the title of the page. You can make a keyword like verify title, wherein in the data column you can pass the whatever is the expected title of facebook.com, you can pass that. Or suppose you want to check whether an element on the page is present or not, a link or a button, so you can write over here verify element presence. Okay, so you can put verification functions over here. You can give the XPath of the element, and this keyword will check whether that element is present on the page or not. Okay, similarly you can have verify text, anything. Okay, so these are generic keywords, okay, for verification. Out here you can give the XPath from where the text has to be read. Okay, and out here you can give the text, whatever is the expected text. Okay, right. So now the next thing, for login we need user ID and password. So in the object column we should go objects if we use only login keyword. Yeah, if we are using the login, you don't need to give anything in this case. Okay, I'll tell you what to do. Okay, I'll tell you. Fine. Right now my focus, just be with me, I'm just giving you a rough idea before actually going and making the script, because if I directly go and make the script, you guys will get confused. Okay, so how will you pass, the question is right, that how will you pass over the data to a keyword like login which expects username as well as password and all, everything. Okay, we'll talk about that. Fine. Now you have the keywords, you have everything perfectly arranged, you have some validation keywords and all which you can use. Okay, right. Now how will you build this system? How will you build the script? Okay, to build the script, let me not build the project directly. Let me first build a raw code. Okay, let me first build a raw code which will explain how the script is made, and then later on we'll start building the project as well. Okay, I'll go to file, new Java project, and I will just make a project known as temp, a temporary project. Okay, in the temporary project, what I'll do is that I'll include the Excel reader.java. This file I had taught you that it can help you read the Excel files and all, right? So in this project I will add the external jars of the POI API. We had earlier seen how to read the Excel files, right? So over here, hold on. So I'll include all the 5 POI API jar files. Okay, the errors will go away, and I'll make a class known as, say, driver. Okay, so this class will be driving everything. So right now I'm not including testng, I'm not doing anything. I have a simple class with public static void main, and we'll try to write a logic which will read the Excel file and write. So how do you write the logic? It's very simple. Okay, you first should have a variable that the test which has to be executed, which is that test. Suppose I want to execute the change password test. Then if I want to execute the change password test, I should read the Excel file and I should read the contents for only change password test. Okay, not the login test. Okay, so if we want to do that, the first thing is that you need to create the object of XLS reader file, and you need to give the path of the Excel file which has to be read. Okay, right. And once you have given the path, you count the total number of rows in the Excel file, that is xls dot get row count. Okay, row count in the sheet test cases. The name of the sheet is test cases. You count the total number of rows, and I'll just print total rows are rows. So when you run it, it will print that in the output. Yeah, total rows are 15. Okay, fine. Now moving ahead, which is actually correct, there are 15 rows. The first row is the column name. So Excel reader utility is very important. I hope everybody has this file. We had discussed it in the day 7. Okay, now you can write a for loop for int row number equals to 2 to row number less than equals to total number of rows and row number plus plus. Now why am I starting the row number from row number 2? Because if you look at the Excel file, the data starts from row number 2. Alright, fine. So what we will do is that we will take the column names. String the column name tcid is equal to xls dot get cell data from the sheet test cases from the column tcid. Make sure you give the correct column name which you have given over here. If you don't give it, you will face issues. Okay, and the row number rnum. Similarly, you can read the data for the other columns as well. That is keyword. You can read the object column. Okay, and you can read the data column. Okay, so you read the tcid column, keyword, column value, object, and the data, and you print it. You print the tcid, you print the keyword, you print the object, and you print the data. Okay, so when you run this code, see, it in an instant it has printed everything from the Excel file. But you want the stuff only from the change password test, because suppose the test under execution is change password test. So you can write over here after reading tcid that if in case the value of the tcid column is equal to the test which you want to execute, in that case you can go ahead and just get the values of the other columns and print them. You put an if statement over here, right? So when you run it, it will print the data only for the change password test. So now you want to execute everything. Okay, right. So now we just cannot go ahead and execute it like that. There are a lot of formalities involved. You don't have to hard code the paths and file names like this. Okay, right. Apart from that, there are various things you have to do. You have to read the data for one test case. Suppose you have to have multiple sets of data, or you have to say this object column value. You cannot just hard code the XPaths or IDs or names or the locators. Basically, it's not just XPaths. You can have IDs, or you can have any locator over here. You cannot just hard code it over here, because suppose I have got just right now I've just taken an example of 2 test cases. Suppose if you have 100 test cases and there is one object which is required in all the 100 test cases. Okay, suppose, right, one XPath is there over here as well, and suppose it is over here as well, right? The same XPath is present in all the tests, and suppose that XPath changes tomorrow, or that locator or ID or whatever it is, it changes tomorrow. So you just cannot go into this file and change it everywhere. Okay, so as I discussed in the last class as well, what we do is that we make a properties file and we let all the tests read the XPaths from the properties file. So you put these XPaths in the properties file. Alright, fine. So as I was saying, you cannot just hard code the paths like this. Okay, there are various formalities involved. You will actually make a properties file and put the XPaths in the properties file. Okay, let me show you an existing framework and then you will understand. Okay, like this was the framework. In one of the last classes we built, we had the configurations for grid and hub and all everything. We had the nodes. Okay, so the you can say the grid also was there on this. We have the page object model pom.xml file for Maven. Okay, then we had all these resource files for look. We have got different test suites. Okay, in a project, you cannot just keep one testng.xml file. It is not like that. You have got different test suite files. Like these were my 3 test suite files. Okay, in every test suite file, I had mentioned few of the test cases, the way I mentioned in testng.xml. Okay, right. So over here also, I had few of the test cases mentioned. And all these XML files were clubbed into one file, testng.xml. Okay, which was having the description of the test suite files which were there. Okay, secondly, if I open my project.properties file, in this properties file I had the complete project XPaths, IDs, grid equals to Y means that I want to run my project on grid. If I keep it yes, the test cases will run on grid parallelly. If I keep it no, they will execute serially. So I had a simple parameter with which I could define my grid properties as well. Okay, so this was the I took flipkart.com in that batch, and I took Flipkart. I kept the username password in this properties file. You had the XPaths of all the different types of buttons or texts and all links segregated over here. So this makes the work easy. So the script will read the data from this properties file, not the data but the XPaths from this properties file, and it will execute. Okay, now under the project I had the data folder where I had a different Excel file for every test suite. Okay, for example, this was the session suite, and in this I had the keywords, fine, for Flipkart. Okay, and you had the data being arranged like this. In a separate sheet over here in the data sheet, I had arranged the data. Okay, for login test, I had arranged the data in multiple rows, 3 rows. For change password test, I had actually just kept 1 row of data. So the expected result was also given over here. And then we also had a sheet known as test cases. In this sheet, every test case had a certain run mode. If the run mode of the test case is set to yes, only then the test case will run, otherwise it will not run. Sometimes in the project you have got multiple test cases. You don't want to execute some of them and you want to execute some of them. Okay, so the test cases which you want to execute, to keep the run modes of those test cases to yes, and when the script runs it will only execute those tests. And similarly in the product suite as well, okay, I had these two test cases, filter mobile test and search and buy item, for which I had different keywords. Okay, and I had arranged the data like this. Okay, that for example in search and buy test I had to buy the item this, search for Lenovo laptops. Okay, so this is just a simple test which has been implemented. Okay, but just I'm just giving you the idea. Hold on, one more thing, and if you look at the test cases again, then you see in the login test I have the keywords over here. Okay, and in the object column I am giving the keys. These are the keys of the properties file. For example, change, I have to click, where I have to click on this object correspondingly to this object in the properties file. This is the key. Change password XPath, this is the XPath. So script, I will not hard code the XPath over there. I will keep the XPath with the key over here, and the key I am going to mention in the object column. Okay, similarly if I have to run the change password test, then I have to read old password, new password. Okay, and then I have to enter the old and new password. In the data sheet you have the data of the test case. The column names, for example, old password is the column name, new password is the column name, expected result is the column name. We keep the column names over here. Okay, we open the browser. Which browser you have to open? You have to open browser corresponding to the browser column of the data sheet. So in the data sheet you have the browser column which has Mozilla, or in login test you have Mozilla, Chrome, Mozilla. You have to run the login test multiple times. Okay, right. Then you navigate to a certain URL. In the object column I have given the URL. The URL is kept in the properties file, that is http flipkart.com. Fine. Then you have to log in. Then I have a function known as default login. Default login means that login with the default username and password in the website. Okay, generally when we test we have a default user ID and password for our application, right? This is the default user ID and password which I have kept in the properties file for the Flipkart application. Fine. Okay, then you have to scroll the page. I had made this function for scrolling. Wait for some time if you want to put some delay. Otherwise implicit wait also you can use, or explicit wait. Sometimes when implicit or explicit waits don't work, you can use the normal wait, that wait for 5000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. Then click on the link change password, then enter the old password. Okay, the value of old password you will read from old password column, which is over here. Okay, so this is how the script runs, and when it runs it should run, these keywords should execute as many times as there are rows in the data set. If this data set is having 3 rows, then the login test, all these keywords for the login test should be executed 3 times. But obvious, right? So I've designed it in such a way. So if you look at it carefully, then data driven framework is built in such a way that the complete execution is governed from the Excel file. Okay, sorry, the hybrid framework. I missed it, the hybrid framework. And in the hybrid framework, if you look at it, then you have got base test parallel. Hold on. Source main Java, I'm sorry. You have got application keywords generate for for every type of keywords. I told you that we will be making I'm just giving you an overview, guys, right now. I'm not starting to build the code. Please understand that, right? So for application keywords, I told you there are two types of keywords. One are application dependent, one are generics. Like Flipkart login is a application dependent keyword. Verify Flipkart login is a application dependent keyword. And all these other keywords are generic keywords. So for application dependent keywords, we will make a file known as app keywords.java, and for generic we'll make generic keywords.java. This is the mail package which will help us to send an email to everyone, and in the util package you will have various utility files and all to generate reports and all, everything, constants, and remove the hard coding. Okay, right. So we will be first making the Maven project to start with. Okay, so let us start off with the framework, okay, wherein I will start building the test cases and I will start implementing the keywords and all, everything. I'll improve my Excel as well in the way. Okay, so the first thing is build the Maven project. Okay, right. To build the Maven project, you'll have to open the command prompt. I hope everybody has seen the video for Maven. Fine. You will have to go to the path of the project, that my project is lying at this particular path. Fine. And hold on. Is there anyone who's not able to understand? You can please let me know. Anyone? I hope you are able to understand. Right. So you will go to the path, or if you have any doubt or question, please let me know. Okay. So you go to this path, and when you go to this path, you give the command mvn archetype. I am assuming you have seen the Maven video and you know what this command is. This command is to generate a new project. Okay, so under this June 2016, we will actually make the project. Right, choose a number. Okay, enter. Group ID I'll just write is com.qtp selenium dot hybrid. Okay, artifact ID I'll just call it as hybrid framework. Okay, and let the project be made. So if you look at the path of the project, you will have the hybrid framework made. In that you will have page of pom.xml, which will look like this. Okay, actually you don't have to use this pom.xml. I will take my pom.xml from an existing project and copy the dependencies of my pom.xml in this. Okay, so I will open up this pom.xml. Hold on. Just a minute. Yeah, so I have included the dependencies for POI API. Okay, then I have included the dependencies for Selenium version 2.53 is the latest one. I'll use that. Okay, then extent reports. This is important. The dependencies for extent reports, testng, right. Appium, you can remove it. I just took it like that. Appium is used for mobile automation. This is generally a generic pom.xml which I used, whether it's a mobile app or a Selenium app, so it doesn't matter, right? And there are other dependencies for, like the dependency for mail API. Okay, this will help you send emails with the help of Java code. So you have all the dependencies over here in this pom.xml. So in the project, you actually go to the location, go inside the directory and give the command mvn compile. Okay, so this will compile the project. If you're building it for the first time, then all these jars would be downloaded on your PC from the localized repositories. So I get the message build success. That means all the jars are there on my PC. Okay, now you give the command mvn eclipse. You convert this project to Eclipse project. Okay, right. So I'm converting this project to an Eclipse project and I get the build success. So once you convert this project to Eclipse project, you will have dot project dot class path files generated. okay, which means that it's been converted to Eclipse. Now you can go to Eclipse and import the existing project. Okay, you can go to File, Import in Eclipse and import this project. Under General you will see existing projects into Workspace. You go over here and you import this from your hard drive and you will see the project coming up. Okay, hybrid framework. In this, under reference libraries, make sure you are in the Java perspective. Okay, you click on this icon, open perspective, and then make sure you select Java from here. You will have the reference libraries section in which you will have all the jar files from Maven which you had specified in the XML file. There will be two source folders, source test Java, source main Java. Okay, you remove app.java files, you don't require them. Okay, now what will happen is that in a framework there are two types of files. One kind of Java files will hold your test cases. The other kind of Java files, they will hold the utility files. In source test Java, this source folder will keep the test cases. And in source main Java, this one, source main Java, we will keep the supporting files. Sorry. Okay, right. We will keep the supporting files. So these are the two types of folders you have. Okay, apart from this, I will make one more source folder. Right click on this, new source folder, call it source test resources. In this we will have the resource files like testng.xml, then we will have the properties files and all, in which we will be keeping the some kind of XPaths and some constant data and all. Okay, right, so the whole project will revolve around this. Okay, right.